Tether's what? Among the most profitable companies in the world by employee. And before we get into the stablecoin strategy and some of the work that you're doing, I'm very interested in some of the investments that you've been making, including into a Brazilian dairy company. So talk to me about your investments in AI and neuroscience and the fact that you're long dairy, long milk.
All right, so first of all, thank you for having me. Looked from the outside, it might seem like, oh, these guys are doing random things. But actually,
I think when you have a lot of capital, you figure out smart ways to invest it, and that's why I want to know what connects the dots here.
yes, so having $20 billion of profits generated in the last 2.5 years, you have to wonder and start having a very precise plan on how to invest them. So we get hundreds of deals almost per day on our table, and so we have to be very selective. So a portion of our investments, by the way, these investments are outside the reserves of the stable coins, just to clarify, right? Our portfolio investments, a portion of it goes towards long-term safe investments. Land and agriculture is long-term. Tether is known for being the creator and the owner of the biggest stablecoin in the world, right? USDT. Stablecoin is something that is a tool that brings stability to people, to communities, to countries. Because we bring stability to countries that have a very weak national currency, like the Argentinian peso or the Turkish lira. So stability is in our core. There is nothing more stable and more necessary in the long term for the stability of humanity than land and agriculture. So the reason why we invest in Adecoagro, that is this publicly listed US company, but is the biggest landowner, single landowner in Argentina, Uruguay, and Brazil, is because we wanted to have our portfolio exposed to actually the original Bitcoin is land, because it's scarce and you cannot create more land. Sure, you can say I go to Mars and create more land, but actually humanity will need always land, will need always agriculture and good agriculture to survive and to prosper. So that's why a portion of our portfolio is actually on this land business. Also on top of that, we are exploring how we can demonstrate how agricultural companies and producers of commodities like wheat, like rice, milk, like our company Adecoagro can use stablecoins like USDT for international trade. So Adecoagro sells their product to Asia and to the United States. In order to make these sales more efficient, they are starting to look into using stablecoins like USDT to do so. So that is a very fascinating approach, because we think that commodity trading firms will be the biggest driver of adoption of stablecoins in the next 5 years. Then, of course, we have the more new technology type of investments like artificial intelligence or biotech. I love them because I'm a nerd at my core. So we invested in Northern Data. We have the majority of Northern Data. This is probably the biggest independent AI infrastructure provider in the world. When I say independent, means not Google, not Microsoft, not Amazon. So they have 24,000 GPUs, and we plan at Tether to leverage those to start creating our models in the future. Then we are building our own AI platform at Tether, and we'll be ready by Q3 this year. Then we invest in biotech and neurotech especially. I love this company called BlackRock Neurotech that you could say is a competitor to Neuralink, but actually Neuralink is a competitor to this company. So we are creating a brain-computer interface that is the most advanced in the world. Can read from the human brain 90 words per minute. Right? You think about words like it's almost at the speed of a normal person talking. And I think that will be one of the most important technologies for the survival of humanity in the future, because when AI and robotics will become so advanced, I believe that humans will need a mathematical coprocessor in their brain in order to remain relevant and compete with artificial intelligence and robots. Then we invest in other things like Rumble. Rumble is this video platform, very good one, very competitive against YouTube, for example. and they are doing wonders. They have access to 60, 70 million users.
It's such a robust portfolio, but your core business, you control more than 60% of the stablecoin market. And we've got the Genius Act, which was making progress through Capitol Hill, hit a roadblock with Senate Democrats. You've got David Sachs from the White House saying that he's still very optimistic that this is going to pass. My question to you is what the competitive landscape looks like once we have hard and fast rules. The assumption is that we're going to see a flood of new stablecoins enter the market. In the last few years, we've seen that too. PayPal issued PYUSD. That's still below a $1 billion market cap. So people have struggled to compete with Tether. USDC is, a somewhat distant second. So how are you feeling about how competition changes in the wake of this kind of policy?
I love competition. There isn't, but I think that competition is going to compete with our second competitor, Circle, and not with us. The reason is that all the companies that are announcing to do stablecoins are coming from the traditional financial system. The success of USDT is derived from the fact that we understood that in this world, there are 3 billion people that don't have access to bank accounts. They are not bad people. They are very good people. Simply, they are too poor of being of interest of the banks. In order to be of interest of a bank, you need to generate at least $150 per year in fees, in commissions for the bank. But if you live in Haiti, where the average daily salary is $1.34, or if you live in Africa, where the average monthly salary is $80, you cannot give $150 to a bank in a year. So all the traditional financial firms will create stablecoins that will be offered to their existing customers. We take care of 3 billion people that, by the way, these 3 billion people are considered a niche by the banking system. Many of our competitors say, oh, Tether is serving this niche of unbanked. Half of the population of the world should not be called a niche. They are half of the population of the world. So we build adoption with the boots on the ground. We build kiosks in Africa. By 2030, we are going to have 100,000 kiosks in Africa providing electricity through solar panels to the people in smaller villages in Africa. We are already delivering stablecoin education and Bitcoin education. We have hundreds of thousands of touch points in Central South America with bodegas.
And that's something that I've wondered about, because Tether has been so big on this point of sale adoption, being able to pay in person with your phone, using your stablecoins that you have on your crypto wallet. But so much of the world still is a cash economy. So yes, stablecoins are hugely important in terms of being a bank that you wouldn't otherwise have access to, transfer of value, safe storage with respect to economies where there's spiraling inflation. But do people want to pay in crypto at the point of sale?
More and more, yes. So we have around 420 million users now. And our user base is growing by 30 million new wallets per quarter, almost like if we were at Facebook in the good old times. So this proves that money is the best social network, because the growth that we are having is parabolic. And actually, more and more people, even in the poorest countries, have access to cheap smartphones, but still smartphones can run wallets. And so by the word of mouth, our user base is growing dramatically. And all our competitors are focusing on institutions, all institutions. We build millions of touch points with the real world, with the people, with boots on the ground. We start from the streets. We don't start from the ivory towers.
Well, and to that point, I met this fantastic developer in South Africa, Kugofatso Nagako, and he basically integrated Lightning into mobile money, so people don't need data. They're able to just send Bitcoin over the Lightning net, or over SMS texting. Is that like similar tech that you're looking into, so that people wouldn't need data at these terminals?
So we are supporting many of these terminals that accept Bitcoin Lightning payments, and also stablecoin USDT payments. So it's one of our different avenues, but at the same time, really building kiosks in Africa allow us to be directly in touch with the person in the village that will receive remittances maybe from Europe or the US, and will learn about holding USDT on his smartphone, right? And then we'll teach to everyone in his village about USDT, right? We work with the word of mouth. We work proving that our technology works in the smallest and most remote villages in Africa. If it works there, it can work anywhere else.
And is that why you're not, I mean, you welcome competition. You're not worried about like new entrants into the market. I'm thinking about a Wall Street Journal report that said that the big Wall Street banks are looking at launching a unified digital dollar, JP Morgan, Citi, et cetera, but they would be going after Circle's market share because so much of Tether's emphasis is on emerging markets.
So we break our back in the streets every single day. We have entire teams that go do education, work with local partners. It's easy. JP Morgan will never go in a street in Africa in a small village and teach about how to use their stablecoin. That's what you do every single day. That's the difference. JP Morgan and all these guys will sell the stablecoin to all the rich people that have already access to money. That's why I think that stablecoins are nice to have in the United States, but they are not necessary in the United States. In the United States, you have Zelle, Cash App, Venmo, PayPal, 15 different ways to pay. It's so competitive as a payment network. You have the best, you have here the best payment rails for United States, it's dollar. If you go outside the United States, everything is downhill from there. And people are desperate to have dollars, but they cannot have dollars because cash dollars are becoming harder and harder to get. So the best way for people to hold dollars is actually USDT. But no one is touching that market, it's just us.
Yeah, as you've scaled Tether to what it is today, have you ever had a desire to get out of the Cayman Islands? Because there are certain tax advantages, but at the end of the day, there are in Dubai as well, and it has a very established framework that's friendly to the crypto industry. And the Caymans is actually pretty complicated to move money through, and I imagine it's pretty cumbersome. So is it something that you've contemplated?
So right now, actually, we are incorporated. We moved from BVI to El Salvador. So we are moved the incorporation there. El Salvador is, in this moment, the only country that have a proper, intelligent stablecoin, very thorough stablecoin regulation. Europe has a very bad stablecoin regulations called MiCA. They require stablecoin issuers to keep 60% of their reserves in uninsured cash deposits. Look at what happened to our major competitor in 2023 with Silicon Valley Bank. They had $3 billion in uninsured cash deposits in Silicon Valley Bank. Silicon Valley Bank blew up and our competitor almost died. Then FDIC stepped in and saved the banks, so the stablecoin was saved. But you should keep treasury bills. You should not keep uninsured cash deposits. MiCA license requires you to keep uninsured cash deposits. So we decided to not apply to that because it's a bad license. El Salvador is the country that has, the only country that in this moment has the best, most thorough, most safe regulatory regime. Now the US are going to catch up and actually will have a very good regime as well. But until then, you know, we can play with the cards that we have in our own hand.
I was talking to Bo Hines earlier, who heads up the White House's Digital Asset Council, and he pointed to Tether as an example of, I think last year you were the 7th biggest buyer of US Treasuries.
Yes.
You're pretty high up on the list in terms of all-time holdings, I think 19th. To go to this larger narrative of, you know, once you get the Genius Act or another stablecoin bill passed into law in the US, you'll see trillions of dollars of demand for US Treasuries virtually overnight. How do you find the Trump administration to be, and how have your interactions been either with the president himself or, you know, members of this new task force that he's put together?
I never had the opportunity to meet the president, but I've been collaborating and discussing with the administration and in general the lawmakers on the Hill a lot about stablecoins, being our company the mother of all the stablecoins. The discussion were very positive, a good change from the previous administration, I must say.
Do you have any pause around the Genius Act? Did you support other legislation that's making its way through the US?
I think the Genius Act is very sensible and is very thorough, but it's important to have proper rules for stablecoins because they are the most powerful implementation of blockchain technology ever built.
So right now Tether regularly issues self-attestations around the books. Are you looking to disclose more going forward, especially with some of the questions that have come up in the past that you settled with New York regulators 4 or 5 years ago?
So it's important to clear up that fact that no stablecoin issuer or no meaningful stablecoin issuer has full audits for their reserves. Every stablecoin issuer, even our biggest competitor that is far but still sizable, relies on attestations. So in the past, media tended to single us out, but actually it's not a problem of Tether. Big stablecoin issuers don't have full audits, they only have attestations. Let me explain you why. In 2022, Senator Warren sent a letter, a very public letter, to all the auditors saying, don't touch crypto with a 10-foot pole. And it was a time with, you remember Operation Choke Point 2.0. OCC was trying to kill crypto as well. Now things changed, but in the past it was impossible for big four auditing firms to sit down at a table with a stablecoin issuer. Not just us, also with the other stablecoin issuers. Now that the administration changed and is opening up to crypto, just in the last month and a half, we start to have very positive conversations with the big four, with some of the big four, and it's going to be a long process. But it's very, very positive now because at least we can get the conversation going. We have an open discussion with them, so I'm positive that we are going to get to the full audit. I love transparency. I'm the first one that's pushing for transparency. If you look at our attestation, it's much more thorough than our competitors' attestation. We disclose all the different investments categories. We disclose how much gold we have, how much Bitcoin we have, other assets, how much treasuries we have. We are, again, last year we had our Lightning from 2022 to 2024. Cantor Fitzgerald, that is a US institution, highly regulated, took 2 years almost to do the biggest due diligence on our reserves. They turned every single rock. And in early 2024, our Lightning went publicly saying, I see their reserves. I went and checked everything. And also did it first in January and then back in Nashville at Bitcoin 25. He said, I looked everything into Tether. They have the money. Plus, we disclosed for 2 years all our process and reserves to the New York Attorney General as part of the settlement. We are the most scrutinized company in the world. So I know that our company is very transparent. Our company is setting an example for the entire industry. And I'm here actually to correct the record on, I think there was so much misinformation about us.
Last question for you. We're here at the biggest Bitcoin event of the year. You just made a big investment into 21 shares. Jack Mallers is heading up that project. Talk to me about your Bitcoin strategy and whether Tether plans to bring more Bitcoin on its own books.
Well, give or take, now we have around 100,000 Bitcoin that we own. We publish also the address where they are. Differently than many other companies. We don't just say it, we publish the others. And we are a Bitcoin first company. So part of the profits that we make are actually invested in Bitcoin technology, Bitcoin mining, and buying Bitcoin.
I know I said that was the last question, but you just mentioned Bitcoin mining, and I can't help but think about the synergies between electrifying parts of the grid that are completely offline across the African continent and Bitcoin mining, and we've seen Block do that to some degree of success. You mentioned that you have kind of this build out of infrastructure that's more based on solar power, but are you looking at all at the synergies that might exist between Bitcoin mining and your larger ambitions to either electrify Africa or bring more people online?
We are educating ourselves a lot on energy and energy production. So we are doing multiple investments in energy production. Actually, Adeco Agro, the South American landowner, is producing bioethanol and producing themselves a lot of energy, around 200 megawatt of energy, of electricity. So we deeply invest also in energy production, and we are passionate about energy because I think in order to have a stable society, you need to have fair access to electricity. That's the most important thing.